I think we've
Should we
stalled long
start?
enough.
Yeah, should we
Yeah.
start talking about the burb?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start us off, Avenged.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mapmaking Spotlight Show. I'm here with Skyhawk, Zaandaa, and BigDiesel to talk about the BRB.
And JDude.
How are y'all doing?
Doing
yes,
pretty
and
good.
JDude.
Doing great.
I'm pretty normal.
So Zaandaa, tell us about the BRB.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'll go a little bit into the history of it because it's the first time we ever did anything of that.
Yeah.
I'll touch on how it
Kind of like
started.
how
then-
the event format came into being. And
Yeah, because I think the most important thing here is going to be the event format and the mechanics behind it. Because
sure.
that's like the stuff that I want to talk about is how that shaped the maps.
yeah.
And similarly, how it could have done better at doing so. So first of all, there are a couple similar ideas to this that I was kind of sitting on for quite a while. Like starting with when we were talking about league ideas, just things that we could do that are different in the community. And the thing that really made me figure out, I guess, how this could all work together was pinning down the round structure to something that would work like the original idea was it was similar to there was a poll that called it the hour blind grind, where in 1 hour there might be a few maps released and then people just grind them and get the best time that they could get during that time limit.
I do think I remember that poll.
Yeah. So from there, we didn't do anything with that for like half a year. But then, just for some reason, I decided to, think about what it'd be like if it were much shorter and done more like a relay, kind of like Mario Maker stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what happened, but basically Camel and I tried out some stuff with a randomizer and, that kind of format. And we really preferred the like 15-minute time limit per map.
Right.
And
An
then it
hour
was a
does seem
matter
kind of long.
Yeah. Well, an hour for like a few maps compared to an hour for one map would be ridiculous.
I see. Yeah.
It just wouldn't be so interesting to watch. So from there, I was just like, I want to focus on things that make it fun to watch. And it's fun to watch Mario Maker relay kind of stuff, where you don't know what's coming up next. And one of those core ideas was it's fun to watch those kinds of troll and Kaizo levels too.
Yeah. And also just like seeing people's reactions to maps,
Yeah.
like how they deal with it.
Yeah, and when good players handle that kind of stuff, it can be really impressive. They can just still deal with it really quickly. So being able to showcase that kind of stuff in an exhibition environment was a pretty important part of the goal. But the mechanic that really needed to be pushed was how each round would work. Like focusing on that first 15-minute round experience and whatever the goal of that round is. Like really opening the door for people that want to make different kinds of maps, not just another CMR first to SS everything. But like we want to do something different because we've done a lot of the same with lots of CMRs. Let's try a lot of different stuff. So that's like part of the reason for why it came about in the first place. But in terms of like once that was settled on, in terms of the overall design of pretty much anything associated with it, I needed to support that core aspect, that core theme, that core mechanic, that general structure, because that's the main thing that's going to tie everything together. And really doubling down as much as possible on what makes the event unique is ultimately one of those strengths of the event, and that's one of the things that I think came out best from it, but also one of the things that I think could have been improved on the most.
How so?
So, what I mean by that is, like let's take the league for example. So common feedback from the league was people didn't agree with the idea, or I didn't agree with the idea that teams felt like they needed more time to make maps. So the feedback was teams felt they didn't have enough time to make maps. But I think that doesn't actually address the problem with how the league worked, because that was a result of different mechanical problems.
Yeah, because
so
people have shown that they're able to make maps quickly with the CMJ. So it's not like,
yeah,
it's not that people can't make maps in a week. It's that there's something about that format that makes them want to make a map that takes longer than a week or something.
yeah, and people weren't used to that kind of idea, where like, you know, they weren't used to, they didn't feeling like they didn't have enough time to make something, and they wanted to make a normal map that felt a little bit more polished. But the problem was that it wasn't very well communicated to teams, so they got the wrong impression.
Right.
And this problem still comes from the mechanics of it. It backfired because of all of the requirements that made it feel like you had less time to work on something.
Sure.
And because we're not really specifying in greater detail like what kinds of maps should be there. So not setting a good example, and just not being very clear about how the core mechanics all line together.
Sure.
So since then, we've obviously had the map jam and BRB, so
Yeah.
it'll be
so how
approached
does
a
that kind of
different way
idea
next
like relate
time.
back to BRB? Because you mentioned like
Yeah.
BRB had a sort of similar problem.
Well, with BRB, there were fewer issues like that because the round structure was well communicated from the start. You know, going to teams, going to the captains, going to all the map makers. I made it very clear like what the whole idea was with that. So we ran into fewer kinds of problems like that. So I ended up going, you know, better than you know, better reception on those kinds of things.
Okay.
But there's still those kind of underlying improvements that would be there. Let me think for a moment.
Okay. Just like things that can get ironed out when we do this again.
Yeah.
All right.
So like most of the visible issues came just from execution, because like we hadn't streamed an event like that ever before.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a
some hiccups.
little bit tricky getting it all to work, but I think it went pretty well.
But like in my mind, it was just still lacking in terms of how enjoyable it could have been if we really kept doubling down on it. Like that aspect to improve being the unique relay round structure, it's at least like good kind of thing because we know that it already worked out.
Yeah.
But like in general, when I'm talking about how to improve it, like, and when I'm talking about how to improve the league, and also when I'm talking about how to improve any map, like regardless of it being in a BRB or in anything in particular, like I'm always trying to think about how everything supports that core purpose, that core theme associated with the map. Like, it's not really worth improving little points if you're not thinking about the big picture
Sure.
to an extent.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's stuff that's really obvious to fix sometimes, but this is much more of a big picture kind of approach that I'm basically getting at when I'm talking about this. So I think things need to be tighter. That's the main thing. We've done it once now. I think we can really double down on the stricter kinds of that stricter kind of setting with more unique kinds of rules that could change a little bit more, different kinds of challenges. So like when I reached out to the map makers, I originally was just trying to gauge interest in the kind of event to see who's interested in these kinds of specific maps or unique kinds of things. Like we had a sizable group of people that ultimately ended up feeling a little like just a CMR, because each person just kind of did their own thing. A few
Sure.
people of the group asked for more feedback than others, and that's more of what I was originally hoping for, that we would all kind of work together and pin down who's doing what kinds of maps, and try to plan out what kinds of challenges we would do.
Yeah, I think I saw in a few times that like people were just in a voice chat, streaming it to each other, kind of talking about just how to make the map better and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we ended up having our own playtesting channel, and
Yeah.
that went pretty well.
I think a lot of the playtesting and collaboration kind of happened later in the process, though. I don't remember ever
Mhm.
talking with people.
I
Like, there
guess
was, I think, a
it's
very
easier to-
brief. I think there was like a very brief conversation at the beginning where I was like, "Hey, can I do a climbing map?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
But there wasn't a whole lot of conversation like, "Okay, Zaik, you're gonna do the Apple map, and someone else is gonna do like a Kaizo map," and it was kind
Yeah,
of
that's
like,
what I'm getting
oh,
at.
kind of got later in the game. It's like, okay, well, Zaik made an Apple map. Now let's test it.
Right.
And it
Gotcha.
turned out great, but
Yeah, it turned out pretty
think
well.
everybody
for what
had
we
their
ended up
own-
getting.
everybody had their own idea of what they were gonna like make,
Mhm.
and then like the testing was more on like the details of those maps.
Yeah, I think the problem originated from that kind of, me not being so sure about how much I can kind of flex being in charge, I guess. Like me requesting specific things from map makers when I'm not a map maker. It feels a little out of place being like I can be comfortable in that kind of producer role, but I don't know how much like a hobbyist map maker wants to, respond to that kind of thing. So personally, I would prefer that more directed environment. But instead of that, it would make more sense in this community to have like a small group of people that will kind of work together on some of those things and just communicate about it.
Yeah.
And I don't think a big group with that kind of direction would be a good fit for the map making.
Yeah, I think
aspect.
the logistics of that would just kind of be more of a
Well, we'll
problem
see.
than
I mean,
a help. But yeah, who knows?
We'll see. Yeah, that'll be for time for next BRB.
Now that we've
Yeah.
got the format kind of ironed out, we can mess around with those details and see what works
Right.
best.
Yeah, but that's where like the problems originate. That step of the process is the thing that I'm trying to fix, basically.
Okay.
So, like we ended up having a pretty good amount of maps done, but they all did just kind of stick to, they each did their own thing, and they were relatively normal. Some of them you could just see in a CMR and be like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah, I
And
think kind of
that's
like
not
half
like
of
a
the
bad
maps
thing
used
all the
the
time.
same kind of theme, or like not theme, but like the rule set.
Yeah, best SS, but
Yeah.
also it would have been fine in a first SS CMR environment.
Ah, I see what you're
Sure.
saying. Yeah.
So although that's not bad, and they weren't like bad maps, I wanted to see more of the unique creativity, and like Zaik touched upon it somewhat in his maps.
Well, I think even with like
with really different ones, like
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to.
Gotcha. I think
Uh,
even
JDude
if
also
the
had a
map
pretty
itself
good
is
one.
normal, I think just having the different rule set leads to a kind of different experience from a CMR, which is nice. Like,
Yes,
it
I
doesn't
agree.
necessarily have to be a specific map, but I do also think you're right. Having the very unique rule set, like I think Zaik's map was one of people's favorites to watch, just because it was so out there.
Yeah, and it's hard to, design around that kind of unique rule set when you're not really used to doing it. So it's fine that people just kind of, did their own thing.
Mhm.
It's just that that's the thing that I want to work out better next time.
Yeah, it would be cool to have like maybe every single map has a really unique theme. It's like, oh my god, we're doing that this time. It's like, anyway, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we got to have some normal ones.
For sure.
But yeah, there's got to be some stuff that throws people off.
yeah. Yeah, and I think we definitely threw people off with a few different maps in this.
That's for sure.
I
Yeah,
guess
let me think if
let's-
there's anything else big picture. Well, in terms
Sure.
of
Well, I'm trying to
in
find
terms
the
of
first
improvements along those lines, so I already announced both through the map makers and in the announcements channel that like for next time I'll be looking for a smaller group of more dedicated map makers. So for a next BRB, like for one, I'm not gonna bother announcing it until the maps are planned out.
Sure.
I don't think or I think the structure that I originally intended with announcing the kinds of maps along with captains, that would have worked out better. And there are a few other little like mechanical team-based kind of things that I would want to improve. But in terms of just the maps and that backbone, I think it'll go really smoothly if we just plan out stuff in advance. Stuff like more smaller maps and rounds, I think would be a good fit. Like a 5-minute challenge. That would be a really good thing. Like some of the more enjoyable ones that Camel and I played were like a 6-second combat map. So I wanted that actually in this first BRB, but we ended up not getting, or we only got one combat map.
Yeah, we kind of got that with
and,
pillars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Twinkies was like 2 to 3 times as big as I wanted it to be, honestly. He ended up shaving it down quite a bit, but it's still big.
Was temps
Yeah, it's
orange and yellow?
yeah, the more difficult one.
That
Or
was the thing screen.
Yeah, that one was the
bigger.
first SS.
That was a
This
lot
girl.
of fun.
that one was
Oh.
map.
Temps map.
Oh no. What am I thinking of?
53 pickup?
Yes, 53 pickup was Temps map, or in yellow was Delo's map.
Yeah.
First SS is a cool challenge.
Yeah, it's hard to strike that balance between like giving people enough time to play the map several times and not giving them too much time to like just make it repetitive.
Especially when you don't know who's going to be playing it. So a level that's like first SS is like a cool like 5-minute challenge for one person could be like, okay, give me an hour and I might be able to essay this.
Yeah, for
sure. Another person, and they could both be in the event.
Yeah. And that's just how it has to be.
So do you want to start talking about levels?
Yeah, let's start talking about the levels. So the first level in the event was Geo by Epon.
Oh, this little banger.
It has some custom music that we may or may not get copyrighted for. I don't
So-
know if this is from Hollow Knight.
If it's in the game, then
Yeah,
it would be
it's in
safe,
Hollow Knight,
because,
yeah.
Twitch wouldn't
They don't-
care.
They don't want to copyright strike every single
Good point.
channel that's playing their game. So fun fact about this level, this isn't the level that was played in the event.
Yeah, true.
This is Geo Apple, which is the Apple version of it.
Yeah, there's some custom sprites that people might not have recognized from the event map.
Custom sprites and a whole lot of triggers and cool stuff. Check out the Apple percent if anybody's curious. There's a really... Oh, you found an Apple percent. Yeah, this whole thing is not part of the... Or, well, it was causing lag issues for some people. So, who made this map again? Epon?
Epon, yeah.
Epon, yeah. Epon made a trimmed down version of it.
Yeah.
Oh, Epon's in chat. Yeah, trimmed just with the main route all still there, but without some of the cooler script stuff, and maybe without custom sprites altogether. I don't remember if there were some still in the pared down version.
Oh, hey, you're back in the map.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it looks different.
Yeah. Hey, didn't you know you're supposed to low percent the entire map up until the...
But yeah,
Come on,
I
what
guess
were you thinking?
for the event format, you don't really need the Apple percent to exist in the map, so
No.
It's fine to cut it. But now that it's just part of a Nexus, we can have whatever version we like.
Yeah, so this map had quite a few iterations also, especially in regards to the ending of the map.
Oh yeah.
This one's certainly one of the more normal kinds of ones, and certainly would fit in an easy or as an easy CMR
Definitely
example
works as a
kind of
CMR
map.
map.
But with that in mind, this has some of the best flexible gameplay, and it's not too difficult. So it's a really good fit for a best SS.
I think also
kind of level.
Because it could fit in a CMR, it's also a good fit for the first map of the event, where people are just getting used to, okay, I'm on a team, I'm in a voice chat, I'm streaming, just all the kind of functionality stuff of the event.
Yeah, because it was so normal, and because it was, it's a really good quality level. It was a very easy pick for me to select as first.
So we know we had 3 team captains, but Zaandaa is the real team captain, picking the maps.
The map team captain.
Yeah, the
and
map team
captains, for the most part.
I mean, he's essentially the map-making lead.
Yeah.
So you did say that each map maker kind of made their map by themselves, but was there any
some map makers they asked for help in different ways. So for example, I got a handful of versions from some in DMs. I saw some people were sharing it more in the group chat, and some of them were a little less responsive in terms of fewer drafts available and less iterations worked on. And we were able to support all of them. This one, it definitely went over a lot of iterations in terms of what exactly we wanted the ending to be. And, it's hard to come up with a satisfying ending to any kind of map when everything is just combat. So I think it was more of an identity crisis kind of problem than an actual serious ending, because any of them would have worked. In the end, it just ended up being here's one. Here's the way it's gonna be, and then we just made sure it wasn't too difficult or too awkward anywhere. And I really like that it opened up in terms of it opens up all those options.
One thing that I thought was cool about this map is that when Ippon was making it, they really nailed the aesthetic in the first room. And the first room hardly changed throughout the entire process, and it was just really well polished and pretty, and you knew exactly what this map was going to be like. And then the ending and some of this middle section ended up changing, and that got decorated way later in the process. So that was cool. I think we were talking about, I think Dello and C also took a similar approach on some of their levels for the map-making competition, where they kind of just have a single area that they decorate out to be as this is what the whole map is going to look like.
How their competition map ended up
That's a
being.
cool approach. That's
a very common and effective way of doing things, doing a vertical slice. That's another way that it's referred to.
Yeah, you have a vision for
important
a single part of the
design.
map, and then you have to kind of imagine how that extends.
Yeah, if you don't want to totally change everything, if you're going to change one little thing somewhere, you gotta have little demos of how you want it to look, how you want the level to feel, and that goes for gameplay as well. If you were making a Nexus, for example, you're probably going to come up with one really well developed level first that fits in it. You're probably going to come up with some kind of introduction relatively early. Something that really gets across the ideas as best as it can possibly be handled.
Is this an earlier version?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see the beginning here is pretty similar, missing some of the scripts and whatnot. And this is where it starts getting pretty different.
Oh, not sure where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're going either. I think it ends off to the right,
Yeah,
actually.
I think that might have been it.
Oh, that might have been it. Oh, this is
Oh.
even earlier version than I ever saw. Oh, there's the ending.
Yeah, so it's interesting, like, just the direction completely changed.
For a good chunk of levels, I tried to be a little bit blind in terms of, like, I would wait until relatively late in the process to give any feedback at all, to give a first impression,
Okay.
because since that first impression was such a core aspect of how the maps are going to be viewed, how they're going to be handled in the first place, we need some playtesters for each map to treat it as if it's, as if it's in the competition.
Yeah. I think just in general for map testing, having that first impression is really valuable. Like, if somebody says, "Oh, I couldn't see this as I was flying through your map," but then the next time you say, "Okay, here, I fixed it," now they know what the map looks like. They can't say, "Oh, well, I didn't see that," because they already know it's there. It's hard to forget that it's there consciously. So, like, just having somebody that can come into the testing process very late, like once the map is pretty settled, and say, "Okay, here's my first reaction to it." I think that's very valuable for any map, not just for event maps.
Yeah, and specifically, I tried to emphasize that I wanted it done this way, in the BRB specifically. So most maps I was able to avoid little spoilers on for a few weeks.
But yeah. Other things we can say about
I don't
Underrated.
think there's too much
Thanks.
more to say about this one in particular.
Yeah, I guess
there's
there's a lot
not
of maps
that
to
much
get through,
for
so we don't have
some
to
maps,
spend too much time on each individual map.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at Let Them Eat Apples. Let's find that one while I'm looking for it. Oh, there
If
it
Zaik's
is.
around, if you want to join the call, this would be a good chance.
Yeah. So first, I think let's talk about kind of the format for this level. Like, did the level get designed first, or did you have like the idea of a scavenger hunt, or did Zaik have that idea? How did that all work out?
Maybe repeat that question.
How did the rule set, the format for this level come about? Like, how did you decide on the hit as many apples as you can rule?
Well, at the very least, I did give a list of suggestions. I don't remember if exploration was on the list, but I know it's a good fit.
Okay. And so I guess maybe. Oh, is that Zaik?
Looks like.
Yeah, I snuck in.
Hey Zaik,
Hello.
Hello.
can you tell us anything about this map? How'd you get the idea? How did it start?
I got the idea pretty fast in the original prompt for this. I don't remember
Do you
exactly
remember
what the initial.
what the prompt was, or?
I can probably scroll up in Discord if we really, really want to know.
Okay.
It's not that far.
I mean, I gave a list of a bunch of different kinds of map types.
Okay.
Either you thought about exploration and was like, find apples, or something like that.
And you were like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, I want to do that.
But I did try to emphasize that we should try different kinds of maps.
This is definitely a very unique style.
Yeah, I have your initial poster. You had example map types like combat difficult, 2-player, climbing, boost, puzzle, gimmick, Kaistrol.
Oh wow,
And
just
different
spoiling all of the
challenges.
themes for the second event.
Yeah, come on, dude.
And I got the idea pretty fast. I have my original post here. I'm thinking of a treasure hunt style map. Original goal would be find and hit most apples. Large map, lots of apples. Apples suddenly open, hidden in weird places, hidden in technical challenges.
Okay.
Could contain hints for the weirder apples. Some sort of script to count the apples.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds
So
like all of
basically-
that made it in.
Yeah, I did.
It's a really solid premise,
Yeah.
really.
The big improvement made to the map that was not in that initial premise is, I think, the coloring of the apples.
Yep, once you hit them.
Yeah.
I think
It is a
Sandra
nice
pointed
touch
out
though, like Being able to keep track
Yeah.
of which ones are hit is, I think, important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would have had people just running around hitting the same apples every time.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that you would see in other games, but in Dustforce you don't immediately think about it because, you know, we're not used to anything like that in Dustforce. When you hit something, it stays the same color. But
Yeah.
that's just important feedback. That
Yeah, for sure.
you know, it doesn't have to be exactly like Dustforce.
So how'd you go
I
about
still
making these sections? Or Avenged, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, I personally still can barely tell the difference between the colored and not.
Really?
Really?
Is it like a color? Different people see colors in a different way type thing? Do you have partial color blindness?
Not that I'm aware of. They just look
Wow.
very similar to me. Like,
They don't-
if I look at it for long enough, I can tell they're different, but
They look very distinct to me, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, same here.
I would never call them very distinctly different, but you know, they're different.
Like I would never confuse them. One is orange or like yellowish.
Yeah, one's
I
like red,
think
one's like orange.
There's apples colored. One of them is apple colored.
I don't think I got the complaint from anyone that it was hard to tell apart the hit apples and non-hit apples.
It's a
Yeah, it
classic.
could be
Oh.
something with your screen.
actually,
It's a
one
classic
sec.
game developer problem though. It's like they test their map, they test their game, and then they're like, the first person with color blindness comes around and is like, I can't tell anything.
Yeah,
Right.
that is a classic problem.
Yeah. Cal hit it right on the nose. I put my screen at a more orange tint to be better on my eyes. So it just so happens that all the apples look a little bit orange to me.
That's funny. So I guess in the future, for future scavenger hunts, we need to make the hit apples not orange.
And we I mean, if we want to be full accessible, we need to make them a different shape.
Yeah, true.
Turn them into acorns.
Yeah, or something.
That's funny. I hadn't even thought about that.
But to backtrack the conversation,
Sure.
for the different areas, I think the first area, I came up with two of the areas pretty early, and I think it was the forest and the House of Fun.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The forest, I think the forest is pretty self-evident. It's just literally the Legend of Zelda forest
Yeah.
and Lost Woods. And there's plenty of opportunities to like a little bit of maze, lots of opportunities to hide apples. The House of Fun, originally I wanted to get more stuff in there and more complicated stuff in there, but I never got any super good ideas for stuff to hide in there.
I think the mirror was a really unique idea.
Yeah, the mirror I got pretty early, and I made it work okay.
I'm supposed to be way down here.
No.
Oh, I see.
Go back
Clicking
to-
in the wrong place.
Go back to the map at the top if you're
Yeah,
lost.
true.
What was the? I remember you showing earlier versions of this map. What are some of the major changes you made in that process?
Okay, so the most major change in terms of layout is in the mines.
Mhm.
This mining village that you encounter here was originally far off to the right.
Oh yeah.
You didn't get this map right away. But since the map is kind of essential to how you explore this area and you could miss it if you didn't go to the right here, like if you went down first, you never got to see the map before you went to the caverns. It was better to just give it to you up front.
I think some people kind of walked past the map anyway, though.
Yeah. I mean,
I was expecting that when you had 4 people in voice chat,
Yeah, at
and
least
they walked
somebody
past
would
it,
notice it.
somebody would notice it and somebody would screenshot it, was my assumption.
Yeah.
Was absolutely the case with my team. I did not see that map until somebody mentioned it to me.
at least you have only yourself to blame instead of it being like very off to the side like it used to be.
Yeah,
If you missed
for sure.
because you didn't notice it, that's a team advantage or disadvantage.
I disagree with that kind of logic in the sense that if you miss it because it doesn't stand out, that's more of a designer problem. Because
Yeah, I
like
think
you
it
walked
does
right
stand
by it, dude. Like sure. So what I would attribute that to is they're so focused on looking for apples and like a specific kind of apple color. Like they're trying to look behind little pieces of geometry. The map, the only thing about it that stands out in terms of high contrast is black, which is not a good kind of high contrast against that darker area anyway. So it's easy to look beyond it as like this isn't at all related. Like that could just be something on the wall.
Yeah,
but there's an
like
apple right there.
There's
some dudes right there. Yeah, so you see it, but then you're instantly looking for other stuff that comes into view. Because the apple up top, you have to think about how to get there, and then you're trying to parse like the cave geometry, how that all works around it.
I think it still is like not terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a bigger issue when it was still off in Timbuktu. Now it's kind of like something you can miss, but it's also in the same vein as like some of the text hints. Like some people aren't going to slow down to read the text, and that's okay. But there is a benefit to reading some of the text. Which is like there could be apple hints, so it's like a trade-off when you're actually competing.
I think people did end up using the hints during the event.
Yeah, for sure. But like that was something that was raised during playtesting that people would be like, when people are on a timer, they don't want to stop.
Yeah.
So as much as possible, which was not very much, I moved the hints onto signposts. Like for example, that bank did not have the sign that said "Bring 4 apples, get 1 free" previously.
Yeah, it was all in the text.
It was all in the text.
Yeah, we tried to really shorten and simplify some of them.
Yes.
It's good that, some of them remained a little obscure and you had to do a little work to figure it out. Yeah. Because that's the kind of map it is.
I think the mirror
when that's
hint was
not
one
the
that
case,
people kinda noticed.
when that's something that doesn't have to be the case, it could just be a sign, then don't put it in a paragraph.
While we're here, we should have while we have Zaik, we should have him talk about the other map he made.
Yeah, we could jump back into that.
I know it's out of order, but
Yeah, no,
I'm fine with not going in order yet.
Sounds like a plan.
A little precursor to this one. This wasn't necessarily going to be a bonus off the bat. It was supposed to be any normal map. We just at the end decided the bonus kind of structure, and I just arbitrarily picked this one. And I could have picked some other ones too. There were other contenders.
I think it worked out. And Zaik already had a map in there, and this was kind of a fun one.
It ended up being the best fit, so I picked it.
Yeah.
I think this could have fit anywhere in the event.
Yeah, I agree.
So this map.
Still on DF Paint as tiebreaker map.
Maybe DF Paint as the tiebreaker would have been a little silly, but it was silly no matter where it was, I guess.
That one was my probably second pick for tiebreaker because it would have been funny.
Yeah, I think it was.
I wonder if,
cool.
just with the point format, how could you even get tons?
Oh yeah.
You definitely
I mean,
like
it was 2 changes, there would have been a tie.
Yeah, okay.
Next time, well, actually, I've got ideas for the point forward for next time. But let's not get too worried about that one. So let's talk about this map. It's awesome. It looks awesome. It's got a really cool concept.
I'm assuming that the concept came first, and then the design was built around it.
Yes. So the concept, I don't remember the conversation, but I just had I linked to the type. I have this really stupid idea of where you have to avoid a tire in tight spaces, and it dies by itself at the end, and you have to collect dust.
Yeah.
And then I made this map basically by making some ground, making the tire bounce out of a 45-degree angle on the right, seeing where it landed, placing geometry there to make it bounce somewhere else.
Yeah,
and then
it's like making a hold forward map.
Yeah, exactly. I made a hold forward map for the tire. After that, I have adjusted the geometry around this a lot, so that it's like halfway decent also for the player. I think the only really awkward spot remaining is the little pit where it bounces around a bit in the middle.
Yeah, this little alcove here.
Yeah, that's the one remaining really awkward part. Everything else is like movable, traversable, so to speak.
Yeah.
And of course, the geometry where the tire doesn't go can be as nice as it wants.
Yeah. And then, of course, to make sure that the player doesn't interfere with the tire, you gotta give it 1 health.
Oh yeah, of course. People figured out. I wasn't even aware of this bug existing.
I wasn't. Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
some bug with the records right now.
Zaandaa.
Yeah, it's not a bug with the records. Apparently, if you do a super and you cancel it at the right point, it will freeze all hit enemies, I guess.
Oh, I remember that map.
Yeah.
And some people use this to get really slow SSS, and
Yeah.
Fisher actually uses this to get a really fast SS,
Oh,
which I
really?
really like. Yeah, Fisher's VR on this uses
watch
it to not get hit by the tire when it goes up to the right side. It's really sick.
Yeah, this was probably one of the maps that went through some of the least revisions as well. Once there
Well,
was a prototype. Most
you
people
didn't see the
didn't really
revisions.
play for that long. Yeah, well, once there was a posted ready prototype. After that, a lot of the stuff hasn't really changed. We didn't really know if we were going to include it either.
I remember at one point in the process, you just sent a message like, "Help! I somehow moved the tire and I don't know how to get it back to the right spot."
no.
What was the story behind that?
So that's a funny story. So while I was making the art for this map, I somehow moved the tire from the top right into the middle of the map somehow.
Yeah. I think, you know what it probably was? Is when you save the map while you're in play mode, like you just hit Control S while you're here, it saves all of the entity positions where they are in play mode.
No, really?
Yeah.
I must have done that so many times on their maps. Holy shit. I didn't know that. That's so bad. Okay.
That explains so much to me. In the context of this.
I mean, I was unaware if that was even a thing.
Yeah.
No, I
it
had
could be
no
a huge
idea.
headache.
No, that has definitely happened to me on other maps, but on other maps it isn't a headache to move things back.
Yeah.
If you're off by like just a tiny amount, then the whole route just kind of collapses.
Yeah, no. I spent like half an hour trying to slide it back into place. I took screenshots trying to get it back, and it never worked because I had to get it to the exact right value.
Yeah, otherwise just the bounce changes, it's like chaotic behavior.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing was I ended up writing a script that could move an entity to a specific float XY position. And then could also get the float XY position.
Right.
So I had an old revision that I could open, get the
Yeah.
XY, and then move the entity to the exact right spot. And then everything worked again.
That's so cool.
So that script might still be compiled into the map. I wonder if you press tab.
Yeah,
it's still there.
I want to get a replay. There we go. Yeah, got him.
You're free.
Oh, look
Does
at
he know?
the SS incoming.
He does know.
You gotta refreeze it?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, after like 5 or 10 seconds, I think it unfreezes itself. It like knows.
Really?
Interesting.
What
Yeah, so if you watch Cow's replay, you'll see that.
Yeah. Cow has to freeze it a few different times.
Yeah, Fishy's record is really good.
Yeah, Fisher's record is crazy.
Yeah, we'll watch that one next.
I
And
remember
then,
when the
I'll
sign.
check the map to see if that script is still in there. What is what's this thing over here? I don't know if you can see my mouse.
It's okay. So the inspiration for this map is a trash burning power plant.
Okay.
Hence the flames and the trash everywhere, and that is simply a crane that picks up and moves trash.
Ah, yeah, I see the little arms and like a maybe 3D-ish effect.
Yes.
Like this front claw
okay.
is head on while the other ones are side on.
Yeah.
Really making sure.
Yeah, gotta make sure you get everything. Here we go. Let's
That
check
super
the fishing.
doesn't get one piece of dust.
Yeah.
It's really
good
it's
super.
very efficient.
Yeah.
Oof.
So fun.
Yeah, I know. Surprising no one worked really good on this one.
Right there. Yeah, now it's just kind of harmless.
Yeah, it removes the hitbox too, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh my
Well, I think it's because
God.
the tires just have. I'm not sure about this, but I think the tires are only like active while they're moving. Maybe it's like their
Maybe.
hitbox is tied to their speed.
What, like the totems? Like the little mini totems
Yeah,
are?
totems I know for sure act that way, but
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about tires.
Totems are well, big totems or small totems.
Small totems.
I was thinking small totems.
Yeah.
Like if you just
Yeah.
have a totem here.
I don't know what value it's tied to exactly, but yeah, when they're turning around, they don't have a hitbox.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah. So this totem is completely harmless.
So like if you slowed it down, or if it came to a visible stop, but it's moving in quotes, I don't know if it would have a hitbox or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure
I would
about
guess it
tires, but
I guess
see if that
the
script is still in there. Dust counter. Oh, looks like you removed the debugging
I got
one.
rid of it. So it's no, but another thing, while designing this, I'm not that good at Dustforce. I was not sure if this was actually accessible when designing it, and I thought like it's fine if it's like not, because
Yeah,
it's not supposed to be a real map.
right.
But Zaandaa looked at it. This is easily accessible. I think Camel in chat said this is easily accessible.
Yeah.
And Camel got like the SS.
Yeah, I think you got it like the
it's
same
after
day as the
the-
event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like within half an
It
hour or
was
something of
pretty
the event ending really fast.
Is
So
it,
it was definitely accessible.
I think you had earlier versions of it that might have been more difficult though. Or am I crazy?
The very, very first draft of this was 3.5 seconds shorter,
Right.
and also a way worse map for various reasons. When I ended up adjusting the geometry to make it more movable, the time got extended slightly.
I remember when I first played the level. Well, first of all, I'm okay with the maps not being accessible in this kind of format because that's not the point of
Right.
BRB. Like, it's okay to have a map that's not accessible traditionally. If for some reason we can't make it accessible, but it would be really fun potentially. So I would have been okay if this weren't accessible, but I don't remember exactly the length of the map that I originally played. I think it was maybe the shorter, like 12 or 14-ish seconds.
Is this the original version?
And I don't know, it might have been this one.
I remember this one.
Yeah.
It was probably this. But
Is that a V
within a
ceiling?
few tries, I got one of my best attempts as worth, and I was like, yeah, I can see that someone could assess this.
12 seconds
I mean,
is pretty strict for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Really
actual
good that it was
V-ceiling.
extended.
Yeah. The V-ceiling is not to V-ceiling, it's so you can boost either to the right or to the left by jumping at the start.
I remember when I was testing on this map, I think my best score was something like 130-ish because it just barely got a super and supered a bunch of dust. But I would have been hard pressed to SS this one. Whereas I think I can probably SS the current version if I grinded it.
I think this map is like almost exactly 12 seconds if you don't get hit. We were curious about if people during the event would try to get hit to farm super earlier.
Right. Which I think
Yeah, and that
might
would've
have
been legit.
happened by accident, just a little bit during the event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
It ended up not being relevant enough to matter
Yeah.
because
Yeah, 'cause a
it
single
wasn't
hit is
too
only, like,
challenging
5
to get
combo.
dust.
Yeah, you can get 5 dust in no time at all.
Yep.
I'm surprised
was a
at
lot of
how
fun.
similar this map looks, but the path of the tire is completely different.
Yeah. No, if you go into the real map and you move your tire like a millimeter, like a half a float value to the left, it completely breaks. And it's probably gonna start loop bouncing at the bottom.
I just mean like it seems like you redesigned the whole tire path, but it ended up being the same kind of shape for the level. Like
Yeah,
you
you
still got
kinda
the
have
top
to.
2 platforms and you still got this thing on the right.
Yeah, I think I realized fairly early that it has to go in like an S shape. Kinda.
Yeah.
So it wants to slowly bounce its way down.
Right.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
guess that's a given because it just has to.
It's hard to
work
make
off
it
of gravity.
gain height.
Yeah.
It's hard to make it gain a lot of height. You can make it move up a little bit, but
Okay.
gaining height is hard.
Yeah. Definitely one of those maps that like it's impressive to see how it was put together.
It was a lot of fun. I was helping on the comment. I don't know if commentary is the word for it, but I was in the call when we were watching
Commentary.
it go down, and we were all like, "Okay, everybody watch a different screen," because there was no way to actually really well keep track of who does. Like, okay, I think we just saw HGT get a 147. You know?
Yeah.
I think
And I'm
Yuki's
like,
just got
I'm
a
going to the
148.
replays to confirm.
Yeah, that's something we were concerned about from the start in the process of map making. And I was talking about whether we would want a script or something to, confirm dust counts, like kind of help with that kind of stuff, or a plugin score, a kind of solution. Because one solution would be you have to use a plugin with this, and then that is used to do the plugin score feature.
Oh, I didn't think about plugins.
I was gonna say that I thought DustKit tracks dust counts for low percent, but it looks like you can't just see the dust count. You only see somebody's low percent PB, which would be the opposite of what you want to see here.
I think through JSON. Like if it be JSON to
maybe.
replay.
But that's
I
kind
was
of
talking about this recently.
for doing that through the event would have been kind of tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, the issue is not being able to count the dust in a replay because you watch the replay. The issue is sorting the replays and finding like the best replay.
Right. Yeah.
It ended up with being like, okay, well, we know this person's probably in the lead because they're the only person with an A,
Yeah.
and everybody else has only gotten a B, so that's probably a good sign.
Well, at the time it was more like we already knew the numbers, and it was interesting actually that there were two replays with the same number. That like one got the tire, one didn't. One was an A and one was a B because.
Just because dust counts is
that
a nightmare.
was interesting.
Oh, what a mess!
That it was right on the border and made it a little inconvenient for us.
It was also a really tight race. I think it was like everybody was in like within maybe five
or
dust
10,
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
and
small.
scores.
And
Uki's
one
at
person-
153, Simon and HGT at 149.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
HGT's like shared stream was lagging a little bit, so it was like, well, if HGT just like spikes a 155, we just might not see it. So
Yeah, so there
hopefully
was
it didn't
one that we had
happen.
to double check.
oh yeah, we were
I
pretty good about
ended
that.
up doing it. Yeah, I think the judge.
It all turned out well. That was a really fun round,
Yeah.
especially for just like the bonus round. was-
That's one of the reasons why it ended up being the final level, because it was unique enough to the point where it stood out. It would have been a memorable send-off. But the thing was, it had that quality that that I just described of it's a unique kind of challenge that should have put it in the competition itself. It should have put it in the relay aspect, but because it actually exemplified those qualities among the best, and it was a shorter level, then it should have been the final level.
But at the same, you don't want the bonus map to just be a normal map.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think my map would have been very good.
Because similarly, I could have considered Epon's level Geo for the bonus map because it would have been the best example of a best SS race at the end.
Yeah.
Like you can get some good players on it and see some good times.
Yeah, maybe. But I think, for the next time, I think it would be really cool to lean more into that unique play style aspect of this format.
Yep. Yeah. So this would be more of a norm. This map, and like Zaik's maps would be more along that norm rather than the
Zaik had some really cool ideas. Jealous, just a little bit.
But there's
Check
gotta
out
be
Della's
some of
map.
that other stuff, like Della's map. This one was a really good fit, also. There was talks of what we wanted to do exactly with it, because there were options. This also didn't go through too many changes from my knowledge. Dello just kind of, he did it and it was good. It accomplishes its goal. It's a difficult single screen map. There was talks of if we wanted it Dustforce only or not pretty early in making the map.
I don't know if you have to enforce Dustforce only. You kind of just get that.
Well,
No.
so the reason for the discussion associated with it was because the level itself doesn't, it doesn't force a character, but having a forced character from the start does somewhat normalize the experience that everybody participating is going to have.
Right.
So that's
if
a really
somebody
good
just
thing to
picks
consider.
the wrong character, then they've spent
Yes.
a bunch of time learning strats that are going to be slow, just no matter what.
And we don't want them to think they made the wrong choice at character select.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
That's a good point.
Because like
it's
you
better.
could be playing this as Worth and be like, but this section works better as man.
Right.
So we don't want anyone to think something like that
Removes that
in
doubt.
a short time limit. I do think that if I had if I could have had this fit into a 10-minute time slot instead of 15, I would have liked that, but it would have had to have been a different level. This one's hard enough where we kind of needed 15 minutes because we weren't totally sure how it was going to go.
I think iBums wasn't quite able to finish the SS in the time limit, but ended up
Yeah.
getting it just after.
This map, I think, was one of my favorites in terms of the commentary because there was that constant, like we were watching the runs and like seeing different people's approaches to the different sections, particularly like the bottom left section had a lot of cool approaches, but there was always that like nagging in the back of the head, like, is someone gonna hit the Jorf? Or not Jorf, the Terra
The
drops.
Terra, yeah.
Because there's Terras at the end. Potentially multiple, probably just the one.
Yeah, because you can very clearly see, like, even without hearing them, what strats they were going for.
Yeah, so I really liked that balance and that dynamic associated with the Terra being visible and you can think about it. But it is a very questionable kind of thing to include because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't super overpowered to go for it,
Like, you
because
didn't have to.
then you're just dumb if you don't bother going for it at all, and someone else does, and they happen to get lucky. So you don't want to feel like, man, because I didn't even try this at all, I had no shot. That would have felt really unfair. So it ended up being kind of in the middle ground of like, I don't know if it's too unfair, but fortunately it actually doesn't save that much time.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see whether people consider going for it or not, because of that risk reward. It is that high risk, high reward, but that high reward is actually less than a second, which less than
High
a
risk,
second could
low
have been
reward.
beaten by better execution.
Yeah.
So for instance, when we were playtesting this, Maddie got a somewhat better time than Fishy and Simon did, but Maddie didn't go for the Terra.
Right. And I think you did mention that during the commentary.
Yeah, I didn't want to like dwell on that because I didn't want to pull away from the people playing
Yeah,
it. But it was interesting that we had similar times for trying the Terra, not trying the Terra, because it doesn't really save that much time. It's not in a convenient spot for it. The states, depending on how heavy you're going to line up conveniently also.
It is nice that people did try to go for it, though. Like, we would have looked kind of silly if we kept talking about the Terra and just nobody bothered to try it.
Oh, I wouldn't have talked about it anywhere near as much if they weren't thinking about it.
Yeah, people started attempting it, and that's when we really started chatting. And that was, I think, maybe about the halfway mark, or maybe in the last 5 minutes or so. People really started trying to go for the Terra in earnest.
Yeah, about 5 minutes in, like after the first couple SS's roughly, then people were like, I'm gonna mess around with some of the strats, and then they think about the Terra a little bit, so we get like a little bit of a preview of it. And then by 10 minutes in, they're like trying to narrow down, like, do I really want to go for this? Really considering how it's gonna work out.
Right.
And sometimes
time
being
they have
like, I'm not gonna bother, but maybe I will. So they helped make it interesting for us to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's
sure.
interesting, these record runs, Mr. Simon and Fishy, both have like definite improvements to be made, but because there's that Terra at the end, it just saves saves enough time that these are the records over something that
Alright, I
might
need
be
a
a little
link.
more.
Oh, this is actually still slower than Maddie's time.
Oh, SMH.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see Arbs run.
Let's see
Alright,
Paul
Arb,
Allen's
You gotta
run.
start publishing some of these low tads.
There you go.
Yeah, I've got some really bad low tads published, so you need to.
Ah, the dash at the end. Interesting.
For fishies? Yeah, just like a lineup.
Yeah, the thing is though, having to dash in between that kind of thing really minimizes how much you can even do a Terra.
I like the wall cancel at the end.
Yeah.
That's cute. We were thinking that there could be some really funky route with a double Terra. If you could
Oh yeah,
somehow
like
clear-
one through the top there as well.
Yeah.
but the top right dust is a little high
Yeah.
in order
Yeah,
to
it
really,
makes it really
make
difficult.
use
Trying
of
to
that.
get this stuff.
The 80%
So,
route.
you need
on
a
this-
ceiling dwarf bonk kind of thing to do that.
And how heavy doesn't
If
feel
it
enough,
even
that's
did,
rough.
yeah, if it even did reach, you would need that.
Yeah. So is this the 80% route through there?
No.
Oh, jeez. And
Yeah, I'm
then
not sure.
and earlier.
It can work.
Yeah,
already
you got
need it
one.
through.
I'm not sure if many people tried the 80% just because it wasn't the format.
Oh no, I'm sure no one did in the event.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah, not in the event, but I'm curious to see how full the 80% board is now.
Sounds like a record you could claim if you want.
True. Right now.
Just right now, live. World record.
So I think in summary though, this ended up having a good place for what it tried to do. But you know, we don't want too much of this kind of stuff necessarily. I like that it was
Yeah.
short though.
Let's
And
go,
you're thinking
Simon.
about the strats.
I
So
have
this
an
is the kind
actual
of thing
80% run,
was
it's
a good
just slower than other people's SS's.
Beautiful.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Still playing it safe.
Yeah. That's kind of what you have to do. Hey, look there, my 13-second CS. Incredible.
But I think it's
Alright.
fine to move on from that one. Yeah,
Oh yeah, what map's next?
that's one of the more straightforward ones.
Yeah. Let's look at pillars.
Ooh, this one.
Another kind of similar, just like single-ish screen sort of map.
Yeah, Twinkie did a little talk that I unfortunately didn't see of this. But Twinkie, if you want to come in and give like a little summary of you know what you talked about, and then we'll just say like, hey, watch Twinkie's VOD
Yeah, we
for
can do
like
that.
Twinkie's thoughts. We can simplify it with that.
I will say, one thing I think works really well, like this sort of single-ish screen format, I think works nicely for the
Yeah.
BRB, just because you have so many, like, we had 3 different screens all at the same time that people had to watch, and it's kind of hard in a normal map to kind of like compare those 3 screens.
That's a great point.
But with this single-ish screen, you can see, okay, well, this person has all this cleared, now they're on the right side. This person has the right side cleared, now they're on the left side. And so you can see the different routes kind of take shape and just compare where they are. I think it works really nicely. I don't know if that was intentional by the map makers, but it ended up working out nice.
Well, that's why I like the short ones, and
Yeah.
we'll certainly have more short ones in the future. But personally, like one of the things that I mentioned earlier, with like a short combat map, that was one of the more enjoyable ones for me and Camel in terms of like a grind war kind of scenario.
Okay.
There are similar ideas that I don't want to spoil because they'll actually go
Yeah,
into
we
some,
might use them again.
some map ideas for next time. But you know, there are improvements to make on even this. Like we made improvements and we arrived at this, but we can keep going.
For sure.
And to really refine it. But yeah, this started out with like double the amount of dust and enemies. one of my suggestions was just to trim it down, because then we could have that kind of quick experience. Twinkie did it for the most part, but kept the whole level, which is it's fine. It's good to have this kind of level too.
I think it's still small enough to work.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it would have. I don't know. It's hard to say whether a map with more dust, with maybe some kind of super routing possibilities, would have been interesting as well. But I think
to an extent, I do.
With
Yeah, I think it would have been good. But the thing is, we only had one of these maps. If we had two of them, we could have had two different kinds of maps, and this kind of ended up in the middle.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's not
And
quite
that
the same
kinda-
as like the other ones are more difficult sort of linear maps.
And that
Yeah.
kind of matches up with what Twinkie was saying in the chat, saying they wanted a map that didn't have quite an obvious route.
Yeah.
Kind of had a lot of dust, trimmed down some of the fat, but the route still wasn't obvious, so they got what they wanted out of it.
Yeah, we certainly didn't want that obvious route at all.
Classic Twinkie. And we've got an apple.
Yeah.
In
I don't
the
know.
version with more dust, it was more of an opportunity to potentially farm a little bit on the
Right.
end.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just hit it once as you fly by. It would have been funny.
Alright. Well, I think we'll say that go check out Twinkie's VOD.
Yep.
Oh.
But
Unless
that's a good
in the
summary.
future Twinkie's VOD might not exist, but
Yeah, highlight that, Twinkie.
yeah. There you go. Alright.
Alright, I guess time for the next one.
Apello.
Oh, this one was wild.
Boy.
Skyhawk
Indeed.
dream map.
Yeah. Very clearly has a lot of inspiration from Kilo of Apples, which is a map that Maddie has made in the past.
Yeah, this one was an interesting one in terms of development, honestly. Maddie didn't have a draft for a long time. Had the latest draft. A little longer on that process than I would have liked, but we were able to make it work out. Like I did not trust it or anything. But in terms of things I would improve about the event, I certainly don't want to wait this long to have a draft. But with that in mind, we were still able to do a good amount of play testing on it, and we didn't need to change too much. One of the things that did change was we didn't know exactly how hard it was going to be. So at first it was just going to be a first 2SS kind of map.
Right. I think
and
changing to
then-
any percent was a good decision.
Yeah, and then we were like, okay, well, it might be too hard for that first SS, especially once you fix this cheese that we figured out. But what if you just made it harder and then we made it first to beat? Then it's an even different kind of challenge.
Yeah, it makes it unique.
Yeah. So really focusing on that. I'm glad. nice route. I'm glad that Maddie was receptive to those kinds of that kind of feedback too, because it helps give it more of an identity too.
Skyhawk, why?
some cool routing possibilities.
There are. So originally, or at least the first version that I played, the beginning was a little bit easier, but just scroll down to the beginning. Actually, I can
Oh yeah. Sure.
find the file for you. But yeah, the beginning was a little easier, and the ending was a little easier, and the middle was more cheesy.
A little easier.
Yeah, it was easier.
Here. I'll see if. Or I guess you're looking for it.
From I think
I'm guessing that the apple
Okay, I'm
respawning
thinking-
mechanic was kind of decided after the decision to be an any % race.
Okay, I'm gonna DM you.
I don't
the
think
link to
so.
this.
I think that was actually. Not sure. The earliest version I had a respawning apple, which was nice.
Okay.
Yeah, the. Okay.
I guess because even if it is an SS race, then it's good for like practice purposes.
Right.
Yeah, so there was a little refinement in how clear the beginning was. The using the green zones to show that the apples respawn. That went
Different
through
colors.
a couple iterations.
Okay.
So this one in particular, you know, the gap is a little bit wider at the start. It's a little bit taller. This was the first challenge having to go through you know, a little bit longer of that. But the thing is, it's kind of repetitive, and I didn't really like that. You know, you would have to start every attempt in a best SS kind of scenario.
Yeah.
With, you know, having to do that every time. That was a little undesirable. So we
Yeah, I
made it
think just
a little bit easier and shorter.
I think in general that's a problem with Apple gameplay is just everything is really slow. Everything takes a while.
Yeah. This part, I think the gap got made a little bit closer, and now you don't have to. Or now there's spikes on the wall, and that wall's a little bit taller on the right side.
Yeah.
This was easily
This
cheesable
looks a little higher.
with characters.
Oh,
like
I see.
Worth,
Yeah,
Worth
this
can
wall
just
over
kind of
here.
ignore the apple.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, you can definitely do something like just refresh on this wall.
we also weren't sure, depending on the character, or we also weren't sure for if we wanted to enforce a certain character or not.
Right.
At the time, there were no Dust Kid maps, so I hadn't seen it. I was like, you know, if you think Dust Kid's too good, maybe we could just make it a Dust Kid only map, and you know, kind of lean into what makes Kid good about the map.
Right.
'Cause,
But I guess
you know, that
Maddie
would
didn't
stand
really
out.
want that because they ended up using the decision to be a Dustman only map.
Well, yeah, that, and it wasn't, you know, this isn't actually a Kid map.
Okay.
So, like, it was a concern, like, this might be too easy as Kid, this might be too easy as Worth. Like, this part, that you're at the second checkpoint, this is just so easily cheesable as Worth,
Yeah,
for
for sure.
instance. But you could cheese as every character. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think maybe having the extra jumps maybe helps for this last section if you were a kid. It's hard
Yeah.
to say.
So,
You'd be the one to know.
Yeah.
the idea with normalizing it around the one character, that really made a lot of sense here. Just make everything man. It's already built for man.
Yeah.
Just you know, minimize possible cheese, and we'll focus on that.
Yeah,
So,
what
we ended
I'm
up going
hearing
with
is
that
that like
suggestion.
normalizing character for the BRB just to make sure that all the players have a similar experience is kind of it's a good idea. Just like
Yeah.
it makes it so
Yeah,
that
it worked out really well.
Yeah, just the
Like,
people
the map
watching
doesn't have to
kind of
be
compare.
made for the
more
character
similarly.
necessarily. Like, it could be a Worth map, but we make people play Kid on it. You know, that could be part of the fun.
And there was
Yeah,
that one
here's this
map
timing map.
where it was hardest with girl, and you made everybody play girl anyway.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. That one's kind of you know, funny for different reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, Maddie's went through some pretty interesting design changes when we you know, we changed the beginning. We made it really clear how the red zones worked. We
Yeah,
made
'cause
the
you're forced to
beginning
travel through
aspect a
one.
lot easier.
Yeah.
And it still took Fishy and Ucky's a couple minutes to even get past the beginning.
I think it's just because this
it-
wall, like just climbing up the wall with the apple is a little tricky. But Simon
Yeah,
had
it is.
experience with that.
I mean, if you screw it
It
up,
was a
then that's like
consistent
20
experience for
seconds gone.
playtesters. So it was tricky to balance because it was very reliant on how knowledgeable you were relating to apple juggling kind of
For sure.
stuff. So like you, Skyhawk, wouldn't be a good playtester on this because you wouldn't reflect
Yeah, I'm
the
like,
normal
oh, this
kind
map's
of
too easy.
apple knowledge.
No.
Yeah. So, you know, we would have to balance around. So I
But
think
on
I
the
was
other
a
hand-
relatively good skill level to test in the end. because like I've seen your streams, Skyhawk, so I'm aware of the kinds of stuff that you've had to do,
Right.
and I've tried it a little bit myself. But
yeah,
the
it just
thing
seemed
is,
like
I
the
hadn't
different things that are
practiced it.
possible with an apple.
Yeah, like I hadn't practiced going against the wall, which was evident with Fishy and Uckies because it took them so long to get past the beginning. But like Simon had done it before.
Right, and I'm gonna say like that's part of the strategy because the topics were released ahead of time when
Yes.
people were making their teams. So
Right.
you're able to see like there's gonna be an apple map. Okay, I can kind of recruit somebody who's gonna be good
Were the
at apple
topics?
juggling.
Actually, I don't know if that's true. I know the topics.
We didn't
Or-
say the goal. We didn't say like first to beat or first to SS. We did say this was an apple manipulation map and it was a difficult map. So this was difficult, apple manipulation.
Well, I know that, but I know that was told to them after the teams were made, so you could
Yes.
choose your best apple person
okay.
from the team you've already
Right,
created.
not necessarily
to put on this
recruit
map.
an apple person.
Right, so they didn't start all PMing Skyhawk
Yeah.
after they heard that there was going to be an apple map. Yeah, teams
Okay.
were locked before the apple teams were released.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
future times we are gonna release that list before captains would choose their teams, but I'm gonna change up that process. I haven't really decided how quite yet anyway.
I'm not sure what
But
this
the
tear is
original
for.
idea was the apple falls down there. if
Oh,
you
okay,
drop it.
and just to be rude.
Yeah.
Yeah, before that red zone was there, I was actually curious if there was like, okay, well maybe you could do a Terra climb
Yeah.
to get up there instead of this wall climb. Back when the wall climb was also a bit worse, but that probably wouldn't have been better.
Yeah, it just makes you play really carefully up here. Which, you know, is a little debatably good or not.
Maddie was super receptive to all the different feedback in terms of clarity and, you know, preventing cheese. And
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I think it's a
Yeah.
pretty solid map, like in terms of intended strats. At this point.
A lot of these spikes on the walls were added to prevent cheese.
Yeah.
Like I think on the earlier version you were showing, you could pretty much just like get to the first checkpoint and then just apple climb straight up the left wall all the way to the end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
a
funny.
section of the left wall was just climbable
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Huh.
And
Yeah.
the ending
Everything
itself was
slopes.
extended an extra.
This is a
Wow.
clever idea because I don't know that I've seen this used before as like specific anti-apple juggling geometry.
Yeah.
But it works
I don't
really
think we
well.
paid too much attention to the specifics of how it can work. But you know, for the sake of
Don't ruin this
people
for
trying
us,
to cheese it.
Skyhawk.
Yeah, for the sake of people trying to cheese it, then you know, it was sufficient.
Yeah,
I'll just
yeah,
say.
it works
It
really
was
well.
good enough.
Within the time limit.
It worked
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah.
There's no flaws to the thing.
Yeah, fortunately, some of the flaws are, you know, we fix them within the time limit.
Mhm.
People aren't gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, not within 15 minutes.
Yeah, I liked how Maddie's map turned out though.
Yeah. Now on to Diesel's map. Diesel, what can you tell us about this
That's
map?
that.
So I think Zaandaa came to me and was like, oh, there's going to be all sorts of different kinds of maps. And then we started talking about kinds of maps, and other people were like, oh, I'm going to make a short map like this. And I was like, well, what if I made a long map? Because no one else seems to be making a long map. And it kind of got signed off on. I'm not sure if in the end it actually turned out good. Like maybe there's a reason why everybody was leaning towards short maps. But mine was the long map.
Short maps are a good fit for the format.
I agree.
But so are long maps, honestly. Just you have to have a certain approach to them as a player.
Right.
And I think your decision to use stock inspiration definitely helped for the long map style because like you already have that kind of knowledge of strats in a lot of these sections.
Right. That's actually a good point because one thing that I worked with Zaandaa a lot on different drafts of this map. Once I got like the map like mostly drafted out, and that was one thing he kept on talking about was you have to make it either like distinct from the vanilla map or pretty much identical. Because I was running into some issues where I had sections that were like the vanilla map, but off by like a tile or two. So you'd go with the same approach, and then get like thrown into spikes or fall off a cliff.
Right.
And you'd be like, well, this looks exactly like the the
why
vanilla
didn't
map.
that work?
Why didn't this work? It's like, oh well, it's one tile different because I don't know. It just is.
Yeah.
So that got ironed out. Things were either made to be like the vanilla maps. Some of the ascent sections were pretty much just copied from vanilla. Like some minor parts in all sections were, or they were made to be very distinct.
Yeah.
And like.
Yeah. So that during the testing process, I was comparing it to the Uncanny Valley experience. If someone's unfamiliar with it, basically how similar something is, it's easiest to think of in the context of, say, robotics, like androids, robots resembling humans. The more similar something gets to a human, the more the more welcoming it can be. Except for when it's like really close, but just something's off, and that concept is called the Uncanny Valley, and it dips really low in terms of how much people appreciate that kind of thing. If it falls within that, it's so close, but it's so off-putting as a result. And that's when it falls in the Uncanny Valley. So, like BigDiesel was saying, it was close. It resembled the original stock map, but man, it just kills me for doing what makes sense.
Yeah.
So most
It
of that
just
got
throws me into the
ironed
wall.
out through testing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The process for making this map was kind of like, I've never made a climbing map. Or well, I have, but that was like a different situation. This is like my first real climbing map. The climbing map I've made before was literally just ripped out of Cave Story, so not really a map of my own. So I never made a climbing map before, so I kind of just was like, okay, let's find 3 stock levels that are climbing maps, shove them together, and make like a minute-long level.
Done.
So and done, yeah. And then somehow it took still like weeks to make, but minor details. The there's
question I have.
Yeah, what's up?
If you don't mind.
Yeah, hit me.
What is the section before observatory with mansion dust meant to be?
That's a great question. So,
I can talk about that if you want to.
Well, I was just gonna say observatory and shaded are very similar to stock in style, and the ascent section is the one where I had the most sort of free, like things changed in ascent. So yeah, do you want to say something about this, Zaandaa?
So when we were with one of the original drafts, one of the ideas that came about was you don't have to just put everything in shaded and then everything in ascent and then everything in observatory.
Right.
And because of the restriction on I needed the map released at a certain time, and we were moving kind of quickly on needing the maps done, I did emphasize that you don't have to use this to the full extent, but in a really well polished kind of map, if you really wanted this to stand out, you can blend the sections together in different ways, and you can kind of give little previews to what's coming up and the kind of gameplay that you're gonna see. So basically ascent would bleed into shaded grove, and then observatory would bleed into ascent, and you might have little pieces here and there. And in a really polished map, you could blend the aesthetics of them similarly. So there was some of that idea that we considered at that point, but we can't have the most super polished map with infinite time in this setting, unfortunately.
I think it still turned out pretty well, and I did my best to polish it as to a certain degree. The blending into observatory is not as well. I think the ending of shaded to the beginning of ascent has more blending, and there's also a secret bonus area off to the left where you blend in park for the apple secret. Oh, you see those angly blocks coming out of the ground? That's park.
Very nice. That's very park.
and it's very Park. I always thought it was funny. I was looking for stuff to do in the Apple Secret, and I thought it was funny that Park has that green, like grass that I was also using on layer 20 for shaded.
Is it really?
It does. It does. It has that in like earlier sections. So I was like, oh, that's perfect. I can just plop that down on top of shaded, and it doesn't even look silly. I mean, maybe it looks a bit silly, but
Yeah.
you know.
No,
Only
what would
vanilla.
have been funny and rude would be if you use Secret Passage for the Apple inspiration, and you have to go all the way to the top and kind of clip through something and fall all the way to the bottom, but avoid dumb places to fall in.
It was funny when I was looking to make this map. I was like, okay, I'll just base it off some vanilla maps, and there aren't that many like straight climbing vanilla maps. Like, probably for the better, you know. But
Yeah, otherwise Dustforce would be overpowered.
yeah,
You know, he's
you
not
couldn't
right
have
now, but he would have been.
And
There's
also,
probably- there's
it
only,
was
like,
also interesting that it wasn't made with Worth in mind necessarily.
Yeah, I think there was an issue in earlier drafts where Worth was kind of having some issues with some of the dust placement because I didn't test it with Worth. But it was always kind of my expectation, even before I had tested it with Worth, that this is just going to be a Worth map. Like, before I had put a single tile down of making a climbing map, I was like, oh, it's a climbing map. This means it's a Worth map.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if there's any way to avoid that. I didn't really lose too much sleep over it.
Well, the thing is, when it came to how you made the distances between tiles, it was all very laid out for man originally, and certain sections were difficult for Worth.
Should have kept it like that.
And that, unfortunately, you know, like I was saying in the time, you're only making it awkward for people to play, which is not a good thing. Like when you're trying to make levels for certain characters, but not just like. Like I don't think the solution should be you know, making it not fun or just unenjoyable, even though you know, they might still be faster. So like you just have to be more lenient on dust placement, for instance. Like because there was so much dust originally in the level, you just had to touch everything. Because you couldn't just go and attack something and skip a section all the time. So that was one of the main things that changed with the level over time. Dust
learning
placement.
to embrace Dustworth.
Well, it wasn't embracing Dustworth as much as, like, in a Dustworth map, you have to be aware
Play
of
Dustworth.
Playing man. And this flows pretty well as man.
Yeah.
So
I think it ended up
it
flowing
was
pretty
made
well
so that
for
it didn't
both
feel
man.
bad as Worth also.
Yeah, it's like if you know people are going to experience it a certain way, then tailoring it to that method of experience is probably a good idea.
Yeah, especially within the context of the BRB, being that people are probably going to try Dustworth, so it better feel good as Dustworth.
Yeah.
That was a concern for me.
One thing I'm pretty happy with is the supers are not. There's some flexibility with the supers. That's one thing that Zaandaa helped
Yeah, I
a
keep
lot
forgetting
with.
to use these supers just because like the map flows really well even without them.
I think this is the one section where you have a super and you kind of just have to hold it and it's not great.
Yeah.
But you do want to have it for the bear at the end. But where you use it in relationship to this bear is pretty flexible. Like you can definitely use it well before you get to the bear to make that climb at the end of ascent faster. But then you have to deal with a bit more dust once you're into the observatory section.
Yeah, and there's
It's the
like a
same with
first super earlier in the level that you can kind of use wherever.
Yeah, you can use it at the end of shaded in that one like loopy doop, or you can hold it for like more the beginning of the ascent section.
Yeah. You can
and
use it
what
pretty
was
late
the-
because, like you said, there's a while where you have to hold the super for the bear. So
Yeah,
you have a lot of
it used to
dust
be
that
an
you
issue.
collect.
There used to be an issue with like the dust count I had because I had another sort of force super in the middle of the ascent climb.
Ah, I see.
And with like a chest, and you can see that if you have the drafted version.
Yeah,
Ascent
so that
earlier.
weird section that was pointed out, there used to be a force super there, basically. Like you would go
And-
into that section and then you'd have to super chest, and then you leave it without super. And at that point, when I was testing, I was just like, well, I kind of like how for the first one and for some maps, you can just think about how you want people to super, because it's such a long map, and super is never really required anywhere for like the first ending, so you're just able to use super where you want. So just kind of leaning into that little piece of design for using the first super, and then
Okay, I see.
taking out this chest.
Yeah.
For the balance.
Yeah. So this is the first version where this chest is pretty low, so you definitely had a super again by the time you got to the top. And then during the process, I just took the entire sections of the map and moved it around. Oh, this whole section with gargoyles got nixed.
Yeah.
Just turned into nothingness. Because it just wasn't that great. This section is relatively untrimmed or unchanged, just some of the spacing got filled with a bit.
Oh no.
I guess I'm talking everything like 2 seconds in the past
Yeah,
because I'm watching the
it
stream.
works.
But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, because I started moving stuff around like big Lego pieces.
Right.
Then
You
I
did
accidentally
mention
I made the chest way too close to the bear, and it was really tough to have super for both of them.
Okay.
And oh yeah, and this section got squished
Before
together.
the bear.
Yeah, it was Zaanda's idea to combine the bear and the beginning of Observatory, which I thought was a great idea. And this is the Observatory section where you go outside of Observatory. Still like the idea, didn't really pan out for the level I was working on it, but I like the idea, and this is before I had the ending.
Yeah.
The ending of the map, even the one that's actually in the map right now, was made in like 5 minutes because I wanted to have it in the map as a draft to send to Zaandaa, and Zaandaa was like, "Hey, can we talk about this map?" So I
Yeah,
literally
this was
just-
one of the ones I was just waiting on having like a more full experience and be
Yeah.
like, okay, well, let me try it as if it's 15-minute
As
attempt.
if you're a player.
But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It was a lot of fun to work on. All the aesthetics were really easy to do, except for a little bit of the blending because it was mostly just copied from vanilla,
Mhm.
which is nice. I like decorating maps, but it was also kind of fun to just have a pretty direct inspiration.
It's an interesting puzzle, kind of making sure everything fits together. It's cool to see, like you mentioned the puzzle pieces, but it's cool to see like this section was just directly moved up here.
Yeah, that's like a weird section, and I think the feedback on that was like, if you want to have a map that emulates shaded, don't make the least shadedest part at the very beginning,
Yeah, make
You
people
know.
recognize that it's shaded and then change it.
and then add the twist up.
Yeah.
Also, I guess before I forget, the camera on this map, well, it doesn't exist in this early draft, but the camera on this map was a whole process. Like, that was one of the early complaints when I think Zaandaa and other people were playtesting, was like, there's no camera, so it's hard to climb because climbing maps and cameras
Right.
are
Yeah.
tough.
Any kind of vertical map really needs a camera.
And so then
You just don't know what's coming up next.
Epon helped me put together an awesome camera, and that got into an early draft. And then C came along and basically improved on that even further. And
Now that I'm really focusing on it, I can really see like the shot-by-shot interest camera nodes. Like
Yeah.
it'll kind of freeze in a spot and then it'll pan forward and kind of keep it ahead of me. Just
Yeah,
because like
that's-
that's how you have to do it with the way Dustforce camera works.
yeah, it's one of those tough things with climbing maps. Like, you always want the map to be focusing above Dustman, and that's not really.
I think
Possible.
there have been a few scripts that people have tried making that like completely rehauls the camera behavior to like keep it more ahead of you, or at least more customizable. But I
Yeah.
don't know if
Like-
anything like really polished came of those projects.
That could have been something cool to think about if I was, really working on this map for a long-term process. But I think the camera turned out great. I learned a lot about how cameras work, talking with the camera experts.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of intimidated by cameras in general.
Yeah, cameras are still pretty intimidating. Might have to do an episode on them.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I was thinking
I-
about that.
I was actually
That
thinking,
talk.
you know how we have like the tech nexus? I think it'd be almost worthwhile to have like a camera nexus. What I eventually want is you can even do it like a map, like the old camera tutorial map. That was
There is,
5
yeah,
years
a
ago.
camera tutorial map. On that list.
But I think one of the failures of the camera tutorial map is it's tough to keep track of things because you can't see what's going on.
Right,
Which is
you gotta
what
like
the
tab
Dust
an editor.
mod, the Dust mod camera option is like super awesome about.
Oh yeah.
So I wonder if there's a way to like get that turned on while you're in a level,
Like
or
force people
I'd
to see
rather
it.
You know about
without having to activate it. You know what I
hockey?
mean?
Oh, well. You could
Oh, yeah.
probably talk with Sierra
'Cause you could-
MSG about
Like
that.
you could make a camera tutorial 2021 or 2022, and basically just says, okay, you're playing this in Dust mod. We're just going to turn on your camera view right now.
Yes. Yeah, I think
Um,
that's a good idea.
and then you can see, because having turned this on, like the curves and stuff is just wild to watch it in progress. Anyways, we're kind of getting off topic because now we're just talking about camera stuff in general.
Yeah,
We're
anyway.
talking about the BRB.
Yeah. Alright. Back to BRB.
Any last comments on your map?
No, I mean, if there's any more questions that
That was a solid one.
haven't answered, it was a lot of fun. I still think that it was maybe not the best map for this format.
But I mean, that's finding that out is what this first one's for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It is tough to say, honestly, because like take the apple finding map, for instance. That was long, and that was only one. Like you only get that one attempt at it, but that's
True.
even longer than this, and it allows for the format to like it allows for that round format to make sense. Now, if this were a first to SS kind of map and it
Like a
were
CMR style.
considerably harder, then I would feel more comfortable, I think, with that kind of use of the format than like this being a grind for a best SS. But we didn't want this to be too hard, so
Yeah, it was tough. I've
yeah.
never made a really
I
hard
don't think
map,
that was kind of tough.
and I was basing it off of pretty easy maps.
And we made Observatory easier, except flipped.
Yeah, Observatory is the most like vanilla, but I made it easier because I don't like Observatory.
But it's still not easy.
Still the hardest part, but it's more like a silver key than a gold key, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do in the future with it though.
Yeah, I don't know how like more endurance style maps kind of fit into the format.
Yeah, I mean,
Hard to say.
I think the expectation is just like instead of getting like 30 attempts at it, you're gonna get like 6.
Right.
Or
Well,
no, those numbers
so
are
if
both
you-
low, but it's like, yeah, that can
I
work.
think if you compare these to Mario Maker, this is the most similar, except Mario Maker relays are first to beat.
Right.
You don't
I'm
beat them
thinking
from the start.
just because another game I've been playing recently is Trackmania, and like they have a kind of round format that's very similar to this. It's you play it repeatedly and try to get the best time you can. And so I think just having longer maps,
Okay.
like I mean it works for them there as well. So-
Well, the next map is Temps, right?
Yeah. Let's go
Because
look at Temps map.
That this discussion leads perfectly into Temps map, which is first to SS.
Yeah, very similar, like just CMR style.
Yeah. So in this case, we it started off a little like within the context of what we were just talking about. This started off as a little bit easier, a little bit shorter, and it was lengthened multiple times and made a little bit harder in order to better reflect the first to SS kind of goal. Because like Temp and Dello were a little concerned that this was supposed to be, or that this was going to be too easy to SS, even as it is right now. Like it was just going to take a few minutes and then we'd just be done with it. And in my opinion, that wouldn't be a bad thing, because some shorter rounds is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Like the 15-minute timer is a little scary. So like we made the timer on the first to do stuff a little bit longer than it could have been, because we didn't know how long it would take. But we made sure that they were difficult. They showed up as difficult, so people knew that assign some better players that have practiced this kind of stuff before, maybe.
Yeah. And then you also force people to use Dust Girl.
Yeah.
Great decision.
But before that, relating just to BigDiesel's map, that is like the making it longer and harder. That is how it can still fit really well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because
Just
this could have
depends on how you
been
present it.
much longer than it is, and it would have been a little bit easier, but it'd be kind of like, say, Dello and Season Nexus near the end. They made some longer ones, and then when they made the longest one, the factory, it was a little bit easier per section. Same kind of idea. But yeah, especially on the Temps map specifically, if he wants to jump in, feel free, like everybody else.
One thing I think was really interesting to watch while people were playing this map was just how, like, everybody got stuck on a different section. It wasn't just one part was hardest, it was just a very personal difficulty kind of thing.
Yeah, one person thought the bear part was like really easy, and the other person was struggling on the bear.
It's like the bear is
every
impossible.
time. One person spent the majority of the time trying to figure out the slime spring blob.
Yes. This was not originally my map. And
Well, as far as the map's concerned itself, one of the original versions, let's see if I have that easily accessible. I'll send that in a bit, but I'll just tell the little story of how it changed a little bit over time. So from the start, Temp just kind of made a temp map, and it was a little bit weird in certain places. He said that he was thinking about the troll / Kaizo kind of approach a little bit. So there was some really weird places where there was dust spread, and like the bear is kind of awkward, for instance. So at that time, that's what made me describe it as a somewhat awkward map and difficult. But by the time that I looked at the next version, it changed a little bit. And before I announced the character restriction, I had mentioned to Temp a little bit offhandedly, how would you feel if this were a man map? Because we could have a map for each character. That could be kind of neat. He said he wasn't opposed to it being man only, and I asked the same kind of thing to Epon too. With pretty much the same response, because it would help shape how people are gonna play it.
Which we talked about.
For the announcement, Epon ended up also. We also just decided, maybe Epon's map can be man only, and then we won't have to worry about if surprisingly Worth is just better on the level or something like that. It wasn't a problem on Epon's map, and we didn't think it would be, but it would have been a good start. Just hey, everybody just pick man, and do what you want. And everybody picked man on it anyway, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
But with Temp's map, because Epon's map was man only, I was like, well, a girl and man are pretty similar. And it would actually be a little bit funny if I made people play girl on it, because then it'd be a little bit harder in some parts, thanks to girl being more challenging on these levels with the 100 stage. And then I got the next version from Temp, and there was suddenly a section that was actually impossible without dwarfing as a girl. So let me see if I can find those versions.
Sure.
But yeah, Temp didn't see the girl change coming. I'd only briefly mentioned it could be a man, and I thought I was gonna make it man only, and I just made it girl only, and then it was just funny how it worked out. Because he had already made those changes before I'd even bothered switching it to girl. I just didn't know yet.
Well, luckily it doesn't seem like it's a Dustforce map, so it's a good call.
Yeah, I think girl was a good pick, honestly.
I'm trying to think. Of all the levels, we didn't actually. So there was this one that was the girl only.
Yeah.
There was Geo, which was man only.
Well, Maddie's Apple map was also man only. There was a character.
and the orange yellow was worth only. My
I don't know if
map
that was
was.
enforced though, or if it was just a good idea.
I want to say it was force was worth only on the single screen. Am I crazy? Maybe I'm crazy. My map was not force, but ended up being. Everybody quickly realized that worth is going to be the fastest on the climbing map.
Yeah.
And then we have, of course, DF Paint, which we haven't gotten to yet, which
Yeah, which is definitely a worth map.
had some flexibility. So it was really only the apple map and the pillars and the bonus map, which were completely like pick whatever character you want, and any character is like totally fair game.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. The character restriction stuff kind of worked out. It's too bad we didn't get a kid map in there.
Yeah, maybe for next time.
Kid stays being the most oppressed
Yeah.
character.
Ooh.
Alright, Skyhawk, I just sent you a couple files
Alright,
on
I'll
Discord.
grab the files.
So the first link, that one is the original version. And the file itself is the next one.
Yep.
I thought it was a little funny that most people continued to play girl after
Yeah. Even after
the
the event's
BRB
over.
itself for this. I don't mind that that's the case, but I didn't think it was gonna be this strong.
Yeah, it's funny. Oh, here I gotta do the mouse exit. There we go.
Convenient mouse exiting.
Look at this speedrun tech.
Yeah. Okay, I think this one's the first one.
Super secret map. I
Yes.
remember there were a lot of
This is the one.
good
this is the first
names
version.
in the practice of like, super secret map, BRB map, BRB map
There are
1.
a lot of BRB maps.
Yeah.
So that shows off some of the weird dust spread, and then we've got the bear that makes things really weird.
And there's some, and the dust spread after the bear is the real
Oh no!
kicker. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
That just requires the side heavy,
Oh
or no, it requires the up heavy.
Yeah. Or the back heavy. Back heavies are great though. Everybody loves back heavies.
So yeah, this is the version
my
that
God.
I had when I made it girl only. I was just like, yeah, I guess this would be fine as girl.
Yeah.
And you'll actually see with the next version that it changes a bit. But it's not easy either way.
Trying to figure this
But it is shorter. So at the time we were just like, is this gonna be a best SS or a first SS? Because it could have worked either way still.
Yeah.
And really narrowing down first SS changed some of the sections, like this boosty one, because
Yeah.
this doesn't kill you at all. This could have been a more refined section. And
Yeah,
then
if these
the
were,
V
like,
ceiling is funnily
best
more
SS.
awkward as girl too.
Some of these just dust spots, like attacking them quickly, could have been interesting, but
Yes.
it doesn't quite fit with the first SS theme because it's just a non-obstacle.
Yeah. Plus some of the dust is just janky. And
This
and
is the
it's
first-
funny that
first
the V
draft.
ceiling doesn't work well, specifically as girl. And then a nice blind ending to top it all out.
A little bit blind.
Like
Then
that
we
too.
got-
Just a little bit.
This one.
Yeah, so that's a good first draft. First draft temp map. Now we've got this one, and
Visual style's a
we'll
little more
not
clear.
we'll not spoil how it's hard as girl, I guess, quite yet. But yeah, I got this one not too long after announcing the maps, and this is pretty close to what it ended up being. Not too many changes after this point.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's
Ooh.
it's a bit of a problem.
And it just turns out girl
Ah.
can't do this. It's the same way as man.
That's a rough look.
So
That's
this was
hilarious.
really
Is this
funny.
an ultra?
Yes. Just try it as man also, and you'll be like, oh, this is normal.
This has to be one, right?
You can dwarf there.
Oh, okay, I'm just bad. No, oh no, wait. No, that isn't Uldorf.
Oh,
dear.
yeah. Well,
That's
I remember dwarfing somewhere up there.
Where else else can I dwarf? Oh, I know what I can do. No.
Maybe.
So there are options technically. That'll let you get your jump back. But you know, obviously we're not gonna leave that in the final version.
Yeah, no, this is pretty bad.
But yeah, if you try it as man, you'll see that it just works normally.
Right, that's what drafts and feedback are for, right?
Yep. And now there was the new restriction. Hey, it's girl, by the way.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this map doesn't work as a girl.
So Temp and Dello tested around, you know, things that could change in these kinds of sections. This dust only section obviously got changed. We didn't keep the big turkey also.
Oh, missing
Didn't know
out.
what to do with the ending yet. But the big change was, all right, let's just make it a first SS and let's make, you know, more of a second half. Just make it a little longer and harder.
Yeah.
We need more enlarged enemies as ending triggers.
Yeah. Then it would lose the shock factor.
Yeah. I was a little bit disappointed that the big turkey got removed, but I'm not complaining about the ending.
Alright. We have one final map to look at.
Oh,
Yep.
We saved the best question mark for last.
JDude, you here?
So JDude's was the only one that did a very crazily different one, and you know, you didn't know from the start you were gonna do something like this, but feel free to take it away. Anything you
I
want
don't
to say about it?
I don't think there's much I
Explain
necessarily
yourself.
want to say about it. Explain my.
Yeah,
I don't
explain
know.
yourself.
Okay. I'm gonna be honest. I think when Zaandaa was first talking to me about this, he was kind of pitching this event as. I don't know if you. I don't know if I just misunderstood, but I was just imagining it to be more like Kaizo-y levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
was-
what I
he
thought
was-
it was originally going to be like, honestly.
Our bad.
Yeah. And when he was kind of pitching it to me, I was thinking, I mean, that sounds kind of fun, but I wasn't really feeling it. And so initially I was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. And then I think I was like on a walk or like in the shower, or woke up one day and I was like, I want to make paint in Dustforce. And then I was thinking of how I could just like arbitrarily choose a winner and it would be kind of silly. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this and say I'm making a map. Which kind of leads to how the ending changed a little bit. Originally, I had it so you were going to enter in like a secret code that you just had to like get from me only, and I was going to be the only judge or whatever. So some like really stupid arbitrary thing for whoever wins the round. And so only the person who enters the code can get like an SS, or only the person that enters the code can get like the fastest SS or something. I hadn't fully thought it out, but I kind of decided to be a little bit more rational about it.
Yeah, it was around the same time that I gave a little bit more feedback to it too, and then that's when we picked the you know, just have a submit button idea.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter that people just submit replays anyway. Just eventually after the competition, and this is like one of the only design ideas that in BRB that was really a post competition kind of improvement. Was like that submit button, just making it more fun for people after the fact to you know, enjoy other people's creations with replays and stuff.
Yeah. And I think having the voting format worked really well for the competition.
It was a fun way to do it.
Yeah, we kind of left it in the air a little bit to how it was going to happen. We didn't know exactly what we were doing
That's
in the
for
moment.
sure.
So
But in the end, it turned out okay. I
Yeah.
think the big change at the end was like, they're like, oh, so what's the idea? Like, what's the inspiration for these pictures? And we had no idea. Like,
Yeah,
So-
and
then some suggestions came from chat or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'd been legitimately talking with just like Spiraler like every day on like walks or whatever, like it would be like a good theme for this, and we could like we had some ideas, but there was never one that I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And it just ended up never came up with one.
I think that's a hard thing to do. Come up with those kinds of themes and commit to them, like with map jams also, because like honestly, in the end, you can just kind of make a theme and then it'll just work out.
I mean, for the map jam, Volcano ended up being pretty flexible. We had a snowboarding map, so
Yeah, it kind of fit.
I mean, you can imagine it was a volcano. You're snowboarding down the dormant one.
By the way, for the visuals, Dello made a nice sun and
Yeah,
a
I'm gonna
dinosaur
bring
that
up
I
too.
yeah, I made him make the dinosaur.
I remember him saying he wanted a sun and a car and a cow or something like that, and a UFO, and he called it a UFO. He
There
said
were
it in one
definitely
word.
some versions of the decorations that were different.
Or an UFO.
They
Is
got
that what he
more.
said?
They got more involved over time. Also, fun part about this one, you're kind of incentivized to do your background first because there's no fill button.
True.
As Skyhawk is realizing now that he has to go fill in all the light blue.
Yeah, it's a first impression kind of experience issue, but not a real issue.
No, it's not.
What would have been
It's
an
just
issue if someone tried to clear it, like 9 minutes in.
Yeah.
Which-
Hey, that's
oh,
not
this-
my problem.
Yeah,
This is
I
the
thought it was
eraser,
really
right?
funny. I thought it was really funny. I think it's really good to keep in, but questionably could have been a little too mean in the moment. Just in BRB.
It's integral to the Apple %.
True.
It is.
Yeah, I never figured out how to Apple assess this one. I never looked into that, so I don't know if you want to spoiler or not. But do you want to talk about it?
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean,
we can do it
sure.
right now.
Surprise there.
I mean, yeah, Skyhawk can
Up
do
to
it
you
right now
if you want to
It's
say
not.
anything about it. There's a cool secret.
I'm totally down to say it, but
This is the place for secrets. If you don't want Apple
Alright.
spoilers, stop listening.
yeah, I don't want to ruin it for someone if someone wants to like look it up. But it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a little puzzly. I would say the intended SS route is to draw 8 colors, click clear, and then super before the guy kills you or hits you.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta give him
there's-
a nice drawing though, or otherwise it doesn't.
Yeah.
There's an unintended route that was originally the intended route, which
that's
is
8 colors, right?
doing like dash invulnerability.
That's a
But
good one.
then somebody was like, I don't remember who. Somebody said like that's so cancer, and I was like, all right, you know what? You're kind of right. I think it's like puzzly enough that people aren't gonna like necessarily figure it out that like
Here we go.
it's okay to not have it like that.
Beautiful.
Apple.
Oh, and it didn't actually clear it.
Nice.
Yeah, he doesn't clear it. It doesn't actually clear it. It's just you
Yeah.
guys clears it.
Oh, I should have done the apple drawing as this replay. Oh, that's stupid.
Missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Yep. You just gotta go faster.
Yeah, make your next Apple genre.
Yeah,
thing.
true.
I have an
It's
8-minute
watchable already.
replay for mine. Don't watch it because it's 8 minutes long and it's me making a bad drawing.
Such good drawing. Thank you.
The
Skyhawk, pause buffer.
Oh
yeah,
no.
pause buffer.
Stress.
The SS idea was Zaanda's idea. Originally, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna do this or not, but then I don't know. It kind of it ended up growing on me. And
I
it
think
Well, I
ended
think you originally didn't have so many colors, or like,
yeah.
there wasn't so much direction as there is now, as like, things you could do as options, encouraging using a lot of colors or getting an SS at all.
So how did you come up with the color palette, which has been a point of some contention lately?
I don't know, Diesel. How did I come up with the color palette?
I don't
remember
think
us
there's gonna
talking-
be a very good answer to that.
I remember us talking about like, okay, well, we don't know how to make color palettes. Who does know how to make color palettes? So we found Crayola boxes of crayons and markers and just stole their colors. It was great.
That's
It
actually
worked out. It was like, oh, well, they have a lot of experience with making, limited palettes of colors. Because I think the original version only had like 8 or 10 colors, and there were like no brown and like 3 different greens or something. And it's like, well, obviously this isn't the best, collection of colors, but how do we improve it? So, oh wow, this is getting pretty impressive
this is
here.
kind of
This
abstract.
is very
for me.
abstract. Did you end up including specifically the character colors in the final version?
No, I did not. I kind of left it off just at the Crayola colors because then I was like, I don't really know how to fit them in, and again, I don't know anything about colors. So then I was like, what colors do I replace without
Right.
I could have made it look more even or whatever, but the art was already partially done, and I didn't want to have to move the buttons around and stuff. Which,
I think it turned
by the
out
way,
really well.
like, thank you, C, very much. I know I kind of like offhandedly joke in here saying I stole this, but like, definitely like this map was 100% not possible without C because I was not about to program buttons in this game.
I think one of the pieces of feedback that you took to heart was have it make a little bit clearer which buttons are selected, and that ended up being in the final version, which was cool. Like you can see which buttons and colors are selected.
I'm glad you guys cared about usability. Eventually.
Originally, the fun fact, the brush was not centered, and
Oh no.
yeah, I know. I just was telling people, just close your eyes, pretend your mouse isn't there. And
wasn't the brush originally like the smallest size you could have was 2x2?
yeah,
Remember, like early draft, and now we can have 1x1. We have evolved to have a
this is
smaller pencil head.
thanks to Spaghetti Code.
More advanced
yeah.
than Dustforce.
I don't want to look at the code for this map. I'm sure it's very impressive and very terrifying.
It didn't need to be, but it is.
I'm sure it reflects the state of the map as it evolves.
Also, very nice touch that the music changes and how the music changes when you are holding down the mouse button.
Right. Definitely special thanks to iBums for this, who I didn't even imagine would even be in the competition
Yeah.
because he hasn't been doing
Yeah.
anything in Dustforce related.
Yeah.
That was
And
a surprise.
he didn't
and-
even know that he didn't even know this was the map that was going to be at the BRB too. And so he was
Yeah,
just like making
that
the
was
music.
suddenly a concern.
Yeah, there were a couple people weren't there that you had to be like, you can't do my map. Like,
Yeah, so I really wanted all the map makers to keep everything a secret, and like the only exception out there was iBums knew about this map thanks to making the music for it, and then all of a sudden iBums was playing on their tennis team, and JDude realized it. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I think I just asked JDude like, hey, just mention to iBums like, try to not play this map or spoil it. I don't know how that ended up working out for their team, but like that was also the team with Tashizuna on it. So
yeah, they won, I think,
Yeah.
this map.
Yeah.
With
The professional coaching.
professional coaching. Yeah, I was thinking it would be funny if Tashi ended up actually being artist on this one, but
yeah,
the coaching was enough apparently.
Yeah.
Though I think the
but I was
janitor
still a surprise.
may have won in arts.
Yeah, there was a lot of fan art after the fact of the janitor.
Shoutouts to I think was it Arb who christened that name.
Yeah, I forget who made it up at the moment.
It was someone in the Twitch chat, and that's a fantastic name.
There are a few people in Twitch chat.
It fits very
Good old
well.
Twitch chat.
So Dillo also spent a good amount of time on the art in this one, and I had a lot of fun in a voice call with him and JDude when we were talking about the sun in particular.
Yeah.
So when you're done drawing or looking at replays, just hit tab and check out some of the secrets off screen.
Sure. That sounds cool.
Some are still there. I haven't actually downloaded the newest version of this map.
You'll have to send me an older one in case.
Yeah, and I will if that is the case.
The extra suns are not there.
Oh,
I think
really?
they're removed.
Okay. So some of them I'll keep as a surprise for sure. But there are a lot of different ways that the sun works, and as long as you're able to, you know, pick it apart, you'll see how it works. And then I'll just say we tried other props to see how they would look, and some look funnier than others. So, you know, if people wanted to do that, they could try that themselves. But yeah, whenever you pick apart the plot, yeah, whenever you pick apart the props, then we'll check it out.
What the heck is that one? Oh, I see. That's the sky.
There was also the funny idea to separate sun and night, daytime and nighttime, because it doesn't have to make sense. So he just rotated many props in a circle. And we tried this with a bunch of different ones and ended up going with this combination of props. One for the light effect and the animation. Like there are no particles on that sun, it's all the props animating.
I see. And there's like, they're on different sublayers to get the different colors.
Yeah, that sun is raging hot.
That's wild.
Neat.
I know originally when I was like pitching various art ideas to Dello, this never happened, but I was thinking like there could be a potentially like situation where parts of the background would change color depending on what color you have selected.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, in a really polished version of a similar map, it'd be really cool to see stuff like that. But you know, time limits and all that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm honestly, by the time like all the art was done, I was like, I don't want to like have to even.
It's like I don't even want to look at this map anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that too. Not everybody wants to put in that level of detail.
Still, very cool. Okay, can I use this? No, the buttons work, but the canvas doesn't.
They don't work, but they have to. Okay, so originally these buttons were all used for, I believe, like advanced tools. So there's a lot of like.
That makes sense.
It's made to
like
work
designed.
in the editor.
Yeah, for the editor.
So there's a lot of questionable, like little hacky things I had to do to make it work, like during gameplay. But I didn't like do it the proper way, so there's still some residual.
Proper.
Stuff.
What's proper? It works. It works.
Yeah, this one's really cool how it turned out, both in and outside of BRB.
I'm not gonna have no space. That's all we get. Alright. Well, I think that's pretty much all the maps.
Yeah, I guess other than the Nexus, which that was just kind of threw together after the fact.
Yeah.
We
Thanks
weren't
to Zaik for
necessarily
this Nexus.
intending. Yeah, we weren't necessarily intending there to be a Nexus for the release. I left it up to the map makers if anyone wanted to do anything special. Most people just kind of did their own thing with the levels, and I'm not gonna go too into detail, but
it's a cool
yeah,
script.
he ended up making this. It was a good thing after the
And
fact.
at the same time ended up making the this new gallery.
Yep.
so that we can
Well,
have
this
all
one
of
had
our
been,
things and
in
not have
progress
to
for a while.
walk further away constantly.
Really
Yeah,
happy
good to
with how
release
this
them all
Nexus
together.
turned out. So much cool stuff came out with this
Yeah.
most recent update. And if you don't have this for yourself, go and update your Dust mod today,
Yeah.
and you can have the cool event gallery where you can play old CMRs, DLC maps, with a new DLC Nexus. You can go play the map making competitions from 2013 and 2015, and marvel at how good the maps were or how bad they were in comparison to modern era. Your choice.
2-1 in 2013.
Yeah, cool to
Yeah.
have everything in there now.
You can play map
We've been
making
on our wish
competitions
list for a
1,
while.
2, 3, 5, and beyond. Map making. Now 4 is a myth. 4 was a myth.
Yeah, big thanks to Zaik for making this Nexus as well as the BRB Nexus.
It's 2 plus 2 equals 5. There is no such thing as 4. But yeah, shout outs to Miles for helping make all the lists of mods.
Yeah, Miles compiled this all for us. Ooh, that looks neat. Looks like a mark
There's
map.
a
You can
lot of
tell by the
people.
trees.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who could have partial credit for this Nexus, but it's just all turned out really well.
Yeah.
And it'll be even more useful as we get more events. Like, we don't have to just keep making that slope longer
Yeah,
for
exactly.
the CMR that just keeps shoving things in the corner when we have non-CMR events we want to include.
Yeah, that Nexus was getting a little
It's like-
messy.
It's like, oh, where do you want to go to the jam? Like, do you want to see the map jam? Yeah, sure. Just slide past, a dozen different CMRs.
Yeah, it's the door floating in the air on the flat part. Yeah. Well, glad we have a place to put everything now.
Oh, it's so nice. I'm really excited.
Any final sign-offs about the BRB episode?
I mean, it turned out pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward
Excited
to
to
doing
do
it
more
again.
events in the future.
Yeah, the next
All
one will
kinds.
be whenever I get map makers together, and they're comfortable with their maps.
Well, the next event is the jam, right?
Yeah.
Well, the next thing is actually Maddie's Nexus is
yeah.
being released
Maddie's
Ah,
Nexus.
yes.
next Saturday.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that's gonna be really cool.
On the
Thanks.
30th, Maddie's been working on their Nexus for quite a while now, and they're finally done.
And maybe we'll do a spotlight episode with Maddie sometime in the near future too.
We'll see.
We'll leave it up
Yeah,
to
I was going to mention
whenever
that.
that will schedule. But
So
I already mentioned it.
So many episodes
also.
to make, so little time.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of how many episodes you want to do yourself too.
Yeah.
Because then right after that, we got the map jam.
Yeah. I don't know if the map
and
jam
then-
needs an episode because it's like
No.
it's its own review.
Yeah. I liked last time how there was the ramen episode before it.
Yeah.
And it would be cool if we
It'd
had
be cool to
little
do more
kinds of
stuff
things
like
like that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of on you guys how many little tutorials you want to do, you want to
Yeah.
fit in, I would say. Because this is a good platform for it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a very scheduled kind of thing. If
Maybe
you two just want to do
It
it.
might be cool if we had some way for people to like give us feedback on what kind of things they'd like to see. But maybe just for now, if there's something you want to see us cover, just ping me or Avenged.
Yeah, just say it. Just DM people.
Yeah.
One possible thing we could think about is doing maybe a small camera tutorial before TMJ,
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
because I know that
Oh.
was brought up specifically in this episode.
Camera stuff. Oh,
Cameras are
Camera
weird.
stuff is easy for the
it's
most
not
part.
though. It's really.
Cameras-
It's like
Are complicated at first, but once
It's-
you kind of like know just how to make them, it's like you can ignore all the complicated stuff and just draw a line.
like once you can make a
You just
line,
put a connect node and a bunch of nodes. Couldn't be
Yeah.
simpler.
and then let's not talk. I don't want to
Yeah.
talk about camera stuff.
Anyway, well-
this episode's gone for a while,
Yeah.
long enough.
thank you everybody for watching.
Good one.
Yeah.
For
Oh,
watching.
shoot.
Until
We
next
should've-
time.
We should have said like, oh, someone start streaming so we can raid
true.
them.
Duck might still be streaming. I don't know.
Let's take a look.
I think he is.
Wayward is streaming Quake.
Yeah, we got
Ooh.
Game Duck.
Oh, Duck's good.
Let's go there.
Wait, Duck's been streaming for 6-7 hours. Oh dear lord.
He switched to Dustforce like right after we went live too. I think something
Yeah,
like that.
he did.
I don't even know some of the camera tricks that C used in the map
Yeah.
that I published. Like,
It can get pretty complicated if you want like specific behavior.
yeah.
Honestly,
I'd like to
like
see stuff on
outside
script.
of
Using existing ones.
vertical map type stuff, it really isn't that complicated.
Yeah, I think
Like-
climbing maps are tough just because the screen is horizontal and the map is vertical, and that becomes an issue. But most maps, it's not too bad. Just put some nodes where you want people to look.
Only if you could change aspect ratios.
Yeah. I was asking about that somewhat recently, and I think the verdict was something along the lines of, we don't have quite that deep of control, because there's like different shader stuff that you'd have to
Yeah.
fiddle with.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would happen. Anyway, we
We
gotta
can
wrap
have
this
black
up before
bars.
we get raided, or before the raid happens automatically.
Oh,
Yeah, cool episode.
Yeah,
Thanks, people.
cool event.
thanks for having us.
Thanks,
See ya.
map makers and stuff.
Bye.